I'm joined right now by the infamous Brick Suit. Brick, thank you for joining me.
Looking forward to this trip. I walked in, here you guys are. Glad to see you guys again.
Glad to have you. Now, you are obviously known for traveling the country in this exact suit, following President Trump to his rallies. At the same time, we have Joe Biden, who doesn't really do much of any rallies. He sort of just shuffles around. We just saw a couple videos of him at the G7 summit. Tell us what you think about how he represents us as a country. I think I know where you're going, but I want to give you the floor here.
It's horrible. It really is. I mean, he really is kind of a laughingstock. And not just kind of, he actually is. The one that really strikes me at the G7 recently is where he just kind of went off to the side, and you see all the other leaders, and they're just kind of like, Joe's going off to the side. Melonia's got to go like reel him in and like redirect him back to like the scene. And then you got the two other people to go around and flank him like, let's make Joe look like he's in the center. You know, it's like everybody looks like they're catering to Joe. And, you know, they're going to tell us that Joe's doing a great job. They're going to tell us that Joe's fantastic, sharper than ever. You know, sadly, every American that's had a member of their family go through some sort of memory issue knows the truth. They can't gaslight America into saying that Joe Biden is fine. He's not, right. and he's it is embarrassing, and it's to the point now where international media is picking it up. I saw it on The Sun. I saw it, you know, an English newscast. Yeah, it's undeniable.
So a couple months ago, there was a lot of talk about, are they going to replace Joe? And then after he got the nomination, it sort of died down for a little bit, because typically once you get the nomination, there's really nothing to wonder about. However, it seems like as we get closer and he deteriorates even more, that talk has sort of picked up again. In your opinion, do you see him being the nominee? At this, it's so crazy. I was just talking to Paul and Grassi about this. Every time they do something new, you say, well, they can't do that, and they do it.
Right.
So it seems like they can't run him out there, but at the same time, they do a lot of things that nobody would think. So do you expect him to be the nominee, or do you expect a swap at some point?
They left themselves a window, and that window is the debate this month. They're actually having a debate 2 months before they name their candidate.
That's an interesting point.
So if Joe tanks it in the debate, that type of dialogue within the Democrat Party, I believe that issue's going to have to be raised. Now, I don't know who they're going to put in, but you know, if Joe does not do well in the debate this month, I would expect there to be rumblings that he can't do it. And it's interesting too, because in my experience, I think Joe actually outperforms expectations every time he has a public speaking engagement.
I sort of agree.
You know, whether or not it's a debate or a State of the Union, they're very successful. I mean, they take him away 5 days prior, they hold him up in like Camp David, they start adjusting when he's going to be awake. You know, they start adjusting his sleep schedule, so he'll be at peak performance at the target date at the target time. They may get some other dosings.
I was going to say, do you think it's more than just sleep scheduling?
It's more than just sleep schedule.
I
honestly think it's more than just sleep schedule. So, you know, they get him into like peak performance. You know, fiery Joe that we saw from the State of the Union, which, you know, admittedly, was it a total disaster for him? No, he outperformed expectations. But 2 days later, back to same old Joe. Yeah. So, you know, he can't keep that level of activity up for a long time. Can they make him do it for just the debate? Possibly, but not for an entire campaign.
Sure.
So, but like I said, if he fails miserably at the debate, I would expect some rumblings about the possibility of replacing him on the floor. And you know, could you really blame Joe if he came out sometime between the debate and the DNC and said, after consultations with my doctor, I no longer feel that I can discharge the office of President for the United States, and I'm going to have to, you know, withdraw. Well, who would blame him if he did that? Who would blame him?
And you mentioned the bar is set so low, because you're right. You see him on these quick 30-second videos, and he looks lost, confused, he's shuffling around, but then he somehow gives these hour-long State of the Union addresses, or at the debate, I agree, he'll probably be somewhat sharp because of what they do prior. But that's not really credit to him, just because the bar has been set so low. Now, I want to shift over to President Trump. You have seen probably more Trump rallies than anybody. Have you noticed any difference in him in his previous rallies compared to now, post-conviction? Does he have the same spirit? Do you see the same thing out of him?
I think he has more spirit. I mean, honestly, I think it's given him... He's always had so much energy. So to say that he actually has more, but I do believe it. I do believe it. I think at some point the Democrats must have thought, hey, if we can just get convictions on Trump, he's going to melt and it's going to go away and nobody's going to be for him. The exact opposite has happened. People have rallied behind him. And I think that President Trump, I think he feels that. I think he picks up on that energy.
I think he needs that during a time.
Yeah, I think it's real. The people still support him, and he's getting more support than ever before. And I think he takes that the way he should. It's very positive. We're still with him, and his energy, I think, is indistinguishable from prior. And
I think so too. When you see things on television, there's almost a disconnect where you know it's real, but you don't feel it as much. But you go to so many events with him in attendance. I've had the opportunity to go to a couple as well, and you can sort of feel it when you're in the arena or you're at the rally. There is a buzz there, an energy, and I'm sure that helps him a lot. Now, we're going to hear him speak tomorrow here. What are you expecting to hear right now? It's post-conviction. He hasn't done too many big events, and we're heading up to the convention and his sentencing date. What are you expecting this weekend from him?
Well, I think he might touch again on taking tips out of the taxable income equation. I think I think there's probably a few things that he wanted to cover in more in depth from Vegas and he wasn't able to get into because he lost a teleprompter. He may tease us with this. This last thing we heard about getting rid of income tax and making it all tariffs. Sure. I mean, who knows? So I don't really know exactly what it's going to be, but I think I think we're going to get another Roomba impression of Joe. I think we're going to get an impression of Joe walking.
Those are always
the
a fan
stage.
favorite.
But one thing I do want to say is that when you go to a President Trump and you see him speaking for an entire length of time, it's entirely different from what people see like on the news, on a clip.
I agree.
Because when you're seeing on a clip, you're just seeing a little bit. And when you're seeing President Trump in long form, whether it's at a rally, whether it's at the recent interviews he did with Dr. Phil and on Implausible podcast, and you're just seeing a different side of him. I don't think Joe could go 5 minutes without a script and a card and a reference card. President Trump in Vegas, no teleprompter, 1 hour, totally went through the rally, hit all the high points. I mean, he's got the ability and the command to do that, and his energy is unbelievable when you're seeing him in person. And I think on these long form interviews, it just underscores the fact that Joe's done. He's cooked. He could never do this stuff, and people know that.
I agree. So speaking of energy, one last question. When you're looking at a potential VP pick for President Trump, that's a lot of discussion around that right now. What would you like to see in his pick? Either a person or a certain personality. What are you hoping for?
Well, my position has always been that I'm not going to express a preference, simply because I know that President Trump has access to much more data and information than I do. I just want it to be somebody that the entire base can rally behind, because ideally it shouldn't be a pick that some people are not going to support, and they're going to, I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
I think we're going to get a great pick. I think we're going to get the right pick. I don't know who it's going to be.
Sure.
But I'm confident it'll be the right pick, and I'm going to support it fully.
Yeah, and President Trump constantly says the thing with the vice presidential selection, it usually it doesn't propel anybody that much. It's more about the top of the ticket, but it can be a hindrance if you pick the wrong person. So I trust as well that he'll pretty much make sure that it's someone that the base will be very happy about. So Brick, thank you so much for joining me as always. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Take care.